We have talked many times about how the cosmic web might actually be Birkeland currents that connect all galaxies together. I speculated whether this actually existed, as some of the data for this is based on the analysis of redshift data. Mainstream models also predict this web of filaments, but they believe the cause is the mysterious dark matter causing the clumping effect. Now, for the first time ever, they have detected a filament that stretches across 50 million light years, and this filament threw up some very interesting surprises. Let's find out more. The electric universe model postulates that all galaxies are strung together via large intergalactic Birkeland currents. These would have plasma flowing along them, which would power the galaxies, which in turn then powers the stars within them. In the mainstream model, they needed a way to explain why the universe was not homogeneous, and why galaxy rotation did not fit the gravitational model. So they came up with a concept of a material that we cannot see, that does not interact with normal matter, except via gravity, and they termed it dark matter. This matter would be the invisible stuff that our universe was made of. In fact, they would need so much of it that this stuff outnumbers normal matter. This invisible stuff would cause the clumping of the visible matter in the early universe. Without this, the early stars and galaxies simply would not be possible in the Big Bang model. Of course, in the electric universe, there is no need for this. There was no Big Bang, and there is no dark matter. The reason we see odd behavior that does not match the gravitational model is because the galaxies and stars are powered by the movement of the plasma. These cause the movement of the stars along the filaments and around the center of the galaxy. These galaxies themselves are also connected via larger Birkeland currents. Some of the evidence for this comes from the fact that we see galaxies clustering along these filaments, and the fact that galaxies themselves seem to align in one particular direction. And we covered this story a while back. Until recently, proving if these filaments existed has been extremely difficult. Detecting the material is almost impossible, but now in a collaboration between Australian radio astronomers and German X-ray astronomers, they have indeed detected one. The Australian Square Kilometre Array Pathfinder telescope can produce large-scale pictures of the universe in radio frequencies. This telescope can see deeper than any other radio telescope, producing discoveries such as the unexplained odd radio circles we recently covered. The German E-Rosetta telescope can produce the deepest large-scale pictures of the universe in X-ray frequencies. Together, these two telescopes can achieve much more than they can individually. E-Rosetta was able to directly detect the hot gas in one of these filaments, which was 50 million light-years long. This by itself is remarkable, but by using the Australian telescope they were able to examine the filament, and this turned up something rather interesting. They were not able to detect the filament at all, and this told astronomers that the gas must be travelling smoothly, without turbulence, and that would mean electrons could not produce the radio waves. When they examined the galaxies in this cluster within this filament, they saw some interesting hallmarks that many will instantly recognize. Most of these galaxies were active. They had jets extending out from the center, and it also appeared as if some of these jets had changed in direction, which may be indicative of them being displaced by the movement of this plasma inside the filament. So what can we make of this all? I think the most important takeaway here is that they detected hot plasma, yet they see no radio signal. This means that the plasma is probably flowing in a very smooth manner with no collisions, in other words, a laminar flow. And this is exactly what we would expect to see if this filament was indeed an active Birkeland current. Of course, we have no way of determining the direction of the flow other than analysing the jets and speculating that these might have been affected by this flow. Does this mean that the galaxies are all falling in on each other? No. Again, there is little to suggest this from the images and the data. Art viewed that these clusters were created through a seed galaxy which was more active compared to the others and created all of the galaxies surrounding it. The variations of redshift you see would therefore relate more to age than to distance. The movement of these galaxies would therefore more likely be a slow outward one, not inwards. In the electric universe, galaxies are formed due to a pinching effect on the Birkeland current, which causes the matter to be aggregated. These galaxies themselves may then also eject material which could eventually form into newer galaxies. When we examine the jets and the location of the X-ray part of the filaments, we see that it overlaps with two galaxy clusters. This is why they believe that it is falling in on each other. But the direction of the jets, in my mind, does not support this idea. When you examine the orientation of the jets, this in itself might reveal a branching structure of the filament, the main current running through the center across the two main clusters. This would be causing a pinching effect, which could be responsible for the increased X-ray emissions that we see. We can see that F3 aligns at right angles to this main one. F1 clearly shows that the material is flowing outwards from this point, not inwards towards where they think the gravitational center is. F2 is very strange in that it would appear as if both jets are bent backwards, and then that the right one is bent over again. The jets here seem to be at right angles rather than at 180 degrees. Either way, it does not show material falling towards the center. Here we clearly see evidence that intergalactic filaments do indeed exist, and that they seem to have a laminar flow exactly as we would expect from a Birkeland current. Also, the fact that we detect what we think is a flow also implies that this flow is significant, which is borne out by the fact that we see so many active galaxies in this part of the filament. Slowly, the electric universe is being revealed to us. As always, be brave, be curious, the truth is waiting for us. Until next time.